On the morning of July 24, 2025, the world lost a titan, not only of wrestling but of pop culture. Terry Gene Bollea, better known as Hulk Hogan, died of a sudden cardiac arrest at his home in Clearwater, Florida. He was 71. The man who once ruled the ring with charisma, strength, and iconic phrases like "Whatcha gonna do, brother?" was gone. The news stunned millions. Hogan had been a larger-than-life figure for over 4 decades. From the thunderous arenas of WrestleMania to the halls of Hollywood, from music and talk shows to reality television, Hulk Hogan was embedded deep within the American psyche. His impact was profound, his influence immense. But behind the yellow bandana, the 24-inch pythons and the booming voice, there was a man, a father, a husband, and a fighter off the mat. In the final chapter of his life, Hogan had found peace and love with his third wife, Sky Daly, a yoga instructor from Clearwater. Their quiet, private life stood in sharp contrast to the decades of headlines that once surrounded Hogan's every move. And now, Sky Daly has broken her silence. In a heartfelt statement just hours after Hogan's death, she described their last days together, his final words, and the love he carried until his final breath. Her voice, once silent in public, now serves as the soul of this tribute. This video is not only about how Hulk Hogan died. Look into his extraordinary life. From his humble beginnings, meteoric rise, devastating setbacks, unexpected comeback, and final days. His wife Sky Daly, who shares a rarely seen, intimate view of the man behind the myth. She didn't just confirm the tragedy, she bared the emotional truth behind Hulk Hogan's final days. Before there was Hulk Hogan, there was Terry Gene Bollea, a quiet, lanky boy born on August 11, 1953, in Augusta, Georgia, to Pietro Peter Bollea, a construction foreman, and Ruth Bollea, a dance instructor. Though born in Georgia, Terry was raised in Tampa, Florida, a city that would later become central to his identity. As a child, Terry showed more interest in music than sports. He became an accomplished bassist and even played in several local bands in the 1970s. He idolized musicians more than athletes. His height and growing physique, however, made him stand out. He would grow to 6 feet 7 inches, though wrestling built him even taller, and tipped the scales at over 300 pounds. Though he dabbled in baseball and Little League, it was music that drove him. That is, until a chance meeting changed everything. In the mid-1970s, Terry was playing bass in a band at a local club when 2 professional wrestlers, Jack and Gerald Briscoe, walked in. They were struck by his size and encouraged him to consider wrestling. At first, he was hesitant, but curiosity got the better of him. Terry began training under Hiro Matsuda, a notoriously tough wrestling coach who was known for breaking a student's leg on the first day to test their commitment. Matsuda reportedly broke Terry's leg during the initial session, but he came back, and that impressed the coach. From that moment on, Terry Bollea became something else. His life would never be the same. He would go through multiple ring names before finally becoming Hulk Hogan, a persona that would eventually transform him into the face of wrestling worldwide. Hogan's earliest wrestling days saw him bouncing around small territories, notably in Memphis and Pensacola, before eventually making his way to New Japan Pro Wrestling. In Japan, Hogan became popular for his stiff fighting style, where real contact was often made. The Japanese called him Ichiban, number 1. But it was his arrival in the World Wrestling Federation, WWF, in the late 1970s, and more definitively in 1983, that changed everything. Vince McMahon Jr., who had recently taken over his father's wrestling promotion, was looking for someone to lead his vision of a national, mainstream wrestling empire. Hogan fit the bill. He was charismatic, larger than life, and had a look that appealed to both kids and adults. In 1984, Hogan defeated the Iron Sheik at Madison Square Garden to win his first WWF championship. That moment marked the official birth of Hulkamania. Fans erupted. Hogan's red and yellow gear, the bandana, the finger point, and the body slams became cultural icons. He encouraged kids to take their vitamins, say their prayers, and believe in themselves. He headlined WrestleMania I in 1985, a huge gamble by Vince McMahon that would either make or break the company. The event was a success and Hulk Hogan became a household name. He would go on to headline the first 8 WrestleMania events, becoming the biggest draw in wrestling history. Matches with Andre the Giant, Macho Man Randy Savage, and Ultimate Warrior became legendary. Hulkamania wasn't just wrestling, it was a movement. It blurred the lines between sport and entertainment and pulled professional wrestling into the mainstream like never before. By the late 1980s, Hulk Hogan had crossed over into mainstream pop culture. He starred in Rocky III, 1982, alongside Sylvester Stallone, playing the terrifying wrestler Thunderlips. Though it was a brief appearance, it opened the doors to Hollywood. From there, Hogan would star in several movies, including No Holds Barred, Suburban Commando, Mr. Nanny. Though none were critically acclaimed, they performed well with children and fans. Hogan also had an animated series, Hulk Hogan's Rock and Wrestling, which further boosted his popularity with younger audiences. He appeared regularly on talk shows like The Tonight Show, was parodied in cartoons, and even had his own pasta product, Hulk Hogan Pastamania. He recorded music, made workout videos, and marketed action figures and toys that sold by the millions. There wasn't a child alive in the late 80s who didn't know Hulk Hogan. He represented strength, positivity, and perseverance. Parents trusted him. Children adored him. The WWF had created a marketing juggernaut, and Hogan was the face of it all. But underneath the surface, fame was taking a toll, and the man behind the persona was quietly struggling to keep up with the demands of being Hulk Hogan 24/7. Off-screen, Hogan lived a very different life. In 1983, shortly before his mainstream explosion, he married Linda Claridge, a model and actress. The two would remain together for over 2 decades and have 2 children, Brooke, born 1988, and Nick, born 1990. To many fans, the Hogan family appeared perfect, especially when their reality show, Hogan Knows Best, debuted in 2005. It showed Hogan as a protective, loving father and husband. The show was a hit and ran for 4 seasons. Behind the scenes, however, things were unraveling. The pressure of fame, financial stress, and Hogan's physical deterioration from decades of wrestling were causing enormous strain. Their marriage hit multiple rough patches. Linda accused Hulk of emotional distance. There were rumors of infidelity on both sides. In 2007, Nick Hogan was involved in a high-speed car crash that left his best friend with severe brain damage. The incident deeply affected the family, especially Hulk, who later admitted to deep depression and suicidal thoughts. In 2009, Linda and Hulk finalized their divorce. It was one of the most expensive celebrity divorces at the time, with Linda receiving a significant portion of Hulk's assets. The split was public, painful, and humiliating for Hogan. This period marked the lowest point in Hogan's life, emotionally and financially. But it would also set the stage for a long climb back to redemption, forgiveness, and, eventually, new love. After decades of being the embodiment of heroism on screen, Hulk Hogan's personal life began to unravel in ways that mirrored the theatrical chaos of the wrestling ring. But this wasn't a scripted storyline. This was real life, and the pain was raw. By 2006, the Hogan household, once depicted as wholesome and structured on Hogan Knows Best, began facing stress fractures that could no longer be hidden. Rumors of marital strain were swirling. Public arguments, leaked emails, and tabloid exposés began painting a darker picture of the Hogan family. Then came the most devastating blow. In August 2007, their son Nick Hogan, Nicholas Bolia, only 17 at the time, was involved in a horrific car crash in Clearwater, Florida. Driving at high speed, Nick lost control of his Toyota Supra and crashed into a palm tree. His passenger and best friend, John Graziano, a U.S. Marine, suffered permanent brain damage and would require lifelong care. The tragedy brought a wave of lawsuits and legal battles. Nick was charged with reckless driving involving serious bodily injury and sentenced to 8 months in jail. The incident drew nationwide media coverage, and the family, especially Hulk, faced a massive backlash. People questioned his parenting, his celebrity privileges, and the supposed glamour of the Hogan name. Linda filed for divorce shortly afterward, and it became a media circus. Linda accused Hogan of infidelity, mental abuse, and manipulation. Hogan, in turn, denied the allegations and claimed she was taking advantage of the situation. The divorce dragged through courts, tabloids, and talk shows. By 2009, the divorce was finalized, with Linda reportedly receiving 70% of the couple's liquid assets, multiple cars, and properties. Hulk was financially devastated. He later admitted in interviews that he considered ending his life. "I was sitting there with a gun in my hand, ready to pull the trigger," he told Rolling Stone in 2012. "But something, God maybe, pulled me back." As Hulk Hogan tried to rebuild his life after his divorce, he found himself thrust into even more public scandals. Most notably, the Gawker lawsuit and a leaked sex tape that would forever stain his reputation. In 2012, the gossip site Gawker published a portion of a sex tape involving Hogan and the wife of his then best friend, radio host Bubba the Love Sponge. The footage not only revealed Hogan in a compromising position, but also included a racist rant Hogan made during Pillow Talk, which he claimed was filmed without his knowledge or consent. The video caused immediate outrage. The WWE terminated its contract with Hogan, removed his name from their Hall of Fame website, and distanced itself entirely from him. Sponsors cut ties. His public image, once that of a wholesome American icon, was now in tatters. But Hogan wasn't done fighting. In 2016, He sued Gawker Media for invasion of privacy and won. The jury awarded him $140 million, forcing Gawker into bankruptcy. The case raised questions about freedom of the press versus personal privacy and became a landmark in internet media ethics. Still, the racial comments caused irreversible damage. Hogan publicly apologized, claiming ignorance and saying he was in a dark place. He began a slow path toward redemption, quietly working with minority advocacy groups and eventually earning WWE's cautious forgiveness. In 2018, WWE reinstated Hogan into the Hall of Fame, but fans remained divided. Some applauded his redemption arc. Others never forgave him. Through it all, Hogan stood resilient, though visibly changed. The scandals had aged him. His voice, once booming with unshakable confidence, grew gentler. He began living more privately, focusing on healing, charity, and family. Behind Hulk Hogan's signature poses, thunderous leg drops, and iconic flexes was a body ravaged by decades of punishment. The cost of professional wrestling is often hidden under the glittering lights and deafening applause, but for Hogan, it was felt every day. His knees were shredded from years of jumping from ropes. His back bore the scars of countless steel chair shots and body slams. His spine was curved unnaturally. By 2020, Hogan had undergone 12 back surgeries, 9 knee operations, multiple hip replacements, neck fusion and shoulder procedures. He often walked with a limp. He needed assistance getting out of chairs. In interviews, Hogan would smile and say, "The pain is real, brother," but his eyes showed the weariness of someone living in constant discomfort. Even so, Hogan refused to let pain define him. He remained an ambassador for WWE, made appearances at fan conventions, and continued to motivate people with messages of strength and faith. But privately, those closest to him knew, Hogan was fighting a different kind of battle now, one where courage meant simply getting out of bed and smiling through the agony. In the quiet town of Clearwater, Florida, away from the glitz of WWE events and the buzz of the media, Hulk Hogan found something he hadn't expected: peace and love. He met Sky Daly, a yoga instructor and holistic wellness coach, in 2022. The meeting wasn't dramatic, just a quiet connection at a local restaurant where mutual friends introduced them. Hogan, now in his late 60s, was immediately drawn to her calm demeanor and intelligence. Sky, in turn, was intrigued not by the wrestling legend, but by the man behind the legend, a kind soul who had lived through enormous ups and downs and still carried hope in his heart. They kept their relationship private for over a year, with Hogan occasionally hinting at his special someone in interviews but respecting her desire for privacy. In July 2023, Hogan proposed, and they married just 2 months later in a quiet ceremony surrounded by close friends and family. Hogan called it the beginning of my final chapter, and my happiest one yet. Sky Daly never courted fame. Her social media presence remained modest. She declined interviews and avoided the spotlight, choosing instead to focus on their relationship, their wellness routines, and their spiritual connection. Friends noted that Hogan became more grounded with Sky. He meditated more. He prayed more. He smiled more. He even said in a podcast, "Sky gave me a reason to look forward to every sunrise." Though Hogan had largely retreated from the public eye, his 2023 and 2024 appearances were marked by renewed positivity. Sky often accompanied him quietly to fan expos and church gatherings. Together, they became involved in veteran causes, children's health charities, and local Florida outreach efforts. Hogan shared photos of beach walks, quiet dinners, and even joint yoga sessions on his official Instagram, something fans never expected. In interviews, he said, "I'm not just surviving anymore. I'm living." For the first time in decades, Hulk Hogan appeared truly at peace. Despite his health battles, he seemed emotionally stronger than ever. With Sky by his side, his final 2 years were described by friends as serene and joyful. They would attend church every Sunday, followed by breakfast at their favorite diner. They took weekend trips around Florida and spent long nights reading scriptures, journaling, and reflecting on life. To fans, this was a softer side of Hogan, a man who had found redemption not through publicity, but through private healing and personal love. Despite his emotional strength, Hogan's body continued to suffer. In early 2025, he underwent an intensive neck surgery, his third in less than 5 years. Doctors replaced spinal discs and attempted to ease nerve pain that had been haunting him for months. Sky was with him every step of the way. She posted a rare message to fans, saying, "He's strong, he's calm, and he's healing. Keep the prayers coming." The procedure seemed to go well. Hogan returned home for recovery, and updates from Sky indicated he was in stable condition, slowly regaining strength. But behind closed doors, the reality was tougher. Hogan had difficulty swallowing. His energy levels dropped significantly. He spent most days resting in bed, with Sky at his side, reading to him and offering massages and medication. Still, Hogan remained hopeful. In a voice message to a friend just days before his passing, he said, "This is just another bump in the road, brother. I'm not tapping out yet." The morning of Thursday, July 24, 2025, began quietly in Clearwater, Florida. The summer sun was already rising above the palm trees as Sky daily prepared her husband's morning juice, part of their daily routine since his surgery. Hulk Hogan, though frail, had managed to smile that morning. He whispered to her, "Let's make this a good day." Shortly after 9:30 a.m., Hogan had finished his breakfast and was walking to the sunroom when he suddenly collapsed. The sound of his fall echoed through the house. Sky ran to him and found him unconscious, his body limp and unresponsive. Panicked but focused, she dialed 911. The call came into the Clearwater Fire and Rescue Department at 9:51 a.m. First responders rushed to their home. While waiting, Sky attempted CPR as she had been taught years ago, pleading for him to breathe. Paramedics arrived within minutes and took over. They used a defibrillator, administered epinephrine, and continued CPR all the way to Morton Plant Hospital. Despite their efforts, Hulk Hogan was pronounced dead at 10:37 a.m., the official cause later confirmed as cardiac arrest resulting from post-operative complications. He was 71 years old. The world had lost an icon, and Sky had lost the love of her life. As hospital staff led her to a quiet room, Sky reportedly sat in silence, her hands clenched together in prayer. She later told a family friend, "He left me with love in his eyes and peace in his heart." Just hours after Hogan's passing, as news outlets scrambled for confirmation and fans flooded social media with tributes, Sky daily broke her silence. Her statement, published through the family's publicist and read aloud on NBC Nightly News, moved millions to tears. "This morning, my husband and best friend Terry passed away peacefully. He fought until the end, just like he fought in life, with courage, humor, and love. I held his hand as he took his final breath, and I whispered to him, 'I love you always.'" He smiled. The world knew Hulk Hogan, the hero, the showman, the larger-than-life icon. But I knew Terry, the soft-hearted man who prayed with me, held my face every night before bed, and thanked God for every day he had left. He was not afraid. He was ready. And he wanted all of you to know that he loved his fans until his very last breath. Please allow us time to grieve. And please honor him by living with courage, forgiveness, and the kind of love he gave so freely in his final years. Sky's words rippled through wrestling communities and beyond. People who once criticized Hogan's past now applauded Sky's grace. Her statement was shared over 20 million times across platforms in under 24 hours. Fans posted tributes, art, tattoos, match replays, and videos of their first time meeting Hogan at an event. Sky's calm, grounded words gave people permission to grieve. She became the emotional anchor for a mourning public. Within hours of the announcement, World Wrestling Entertainment, WWE, issued an official statement. WWE is deeply saddened to learn of the passing of Hall of Famer Hulk Hogan. A two-time inductee and one of the most iconic figures in our history, Hogan changed the world of wrestling forever. We extend our condolences to his wife Sky, his children, and millions of Hulkamaniacs worldwide. The tribute didn't end there. That night on SmackDown, WWE held a 10-bell salute, and a massive screen replayed his greatest moments, from WrestleMania 3's slam of Andre the Giant, to his speech after uniting the WCW and WWF crowd in 2002. The response from fellow wrestlers was immediate and emotional. Ric Flair, "He was the reason I kept pushing into my 60s. We were brothers in the ring and out." The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, "Without Hulk Hogan, there's no me. He inspired me, taught me, loved me. This is a heartbreaking day." John Cena, the ultimate icon. "Thank you, Hulk, for believing in me when I was a rookie. Your legacy is forever." Triple H, "An era ended today. Hogan was more than a star, he was the foundation." Even those with past tensions, like Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, and CM Punk, offered respect and condolences. WWE announced that SummerSlam 2025 would be dedicated to Hulk Hogan, complete with tribute matches and special commentary from legends who shared the ring with him. As word of Hogan's death spread, the internet became a memorial. TikTok flooded with clips of his most iconic promos. Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit wrestling forums turned into digital shrines. In Tampa, fans gathered outside Hogan's beach shop, laying flowers, American flags, and vintage action figures. Candles were lit. People wept. A young boy wore Hogan's signature red bandana and posed in his honor. Across the world, fans held vigils, Los Angeles, Tokyo, Sydney, London, and Mexico City. Parents told their children how they once jumped from their couches pretending to leg drop villains. Adult fans shared stories of meeting Hogan and being treated with kindness. Videos circulated of Hogan spending hours at fan signings, thanking veterans, and making children smile. One viral post said, "He was there when my father left, when I needed a hero, and when I grew up." Hulk Hogan wasn't perfect, but he was real. And he never gave up on his fans. Hulkamania had spanned nearly 5 decades. His death united fans across generations, those who watched in the 80s, those who rediscovered him in WCW's NWO era, and newer fans who admired his grit. The world didn't just lose a wrestler. It lost a symbol of resilience and belief. While the world mourned publicly, Sky Daily chose silence in the following days. Her team confirmed that she had returned to their Clearwater home with close family and was in seclusion. Unlike previous wrestling spouses who remained in the limelight, Sky had never sought attention. Her grief was quiet, sacred. Her only appearance was at a private prayer service held at their church, where she sat in the front pew, clutching Hogan's wedding ring around her neck. Friends say she cried silently throughout the service. At one point, she touched the altar and whispered a prayer before exiting. A close family friend shared with People magazine, "Sky has an old soul. She's not angry. She believes his spirit is at peace. But she is heartbroken. She told me, we didn't have enough time. But I'm grateful for every minute. Terry gave me the happiest 2 years of my life. He showed me what faith, strength, and forgiveness look like. He was tired, but he never complained. He laughed with me every night and told me he loved me every morning. I am not alone. He's still here, in my heart, and in the millions he inspired." Sky asked for fans to honor Hogan by donating to children's hospitals, veterans organizations, or simply being kind to others, as Hogan often preached in his final years. Her words revealed not only grief, but wisdom and grace, qualities she had offered Hogan in his final chapter. Even though Hulk Hogan had long since left the ring behind in an official capacity, he remained a presence in the wrestling world until the very end. Just months before his passing, Hogan appeared on various wrestling podcasts, training sessions, and WWE-related fan events. His energy, although slowed by age and injuries, was always met with awe and nostalgia from fans who grew up watching the icon battle the likes of Andre the Giant, The Rock, Randy Savage, and countless others. In one of his last public statements, Hogan made reference to his dream match scenario, one that never happened but which symbolized his undying love for the sport. "If I had one more match in me, I'd want it to be against John Cena in front of a sold-out stadium in Miami," he said. "Not because of ego, but because of what that would mean for every fan who believed in me since the 80s. His appearance at WrestleMania 40 as a guest commentator and segment leader was especially touching. Though he didn't step in the ring physically, the roar of the crowd chanting "Hogan, Hogan," brought him to tears. Many backstage reported that Hogan stayed long after the cameras had stopped rolling, hugging old friends, thanking producers, and soaking in the moment. "That night was like closure," former wrestler Shawn Michaels later said. "He knew it. We all felt it. Like the curtain was closing." It would be the last time many fans saw him alive. In the months leading up to his death, Hulk Hogan had been dealing with private health issues he kept away from the public eye. While it was known that he had undergone multiple back surgeries and had mobility challenges, the true extent of his struggle was shielded from the spotlight. Close family members and confidants later revealed that Hogan had been diagnosed with complications stemming from decades of untreated trauma, degenerative disc disease, chronic inflammatory conditions, and ultimately organ failure brought on by stress, medication, and the wear and tear of his wrestling life. Sky Daily, Hogan's wife, spoke courageously in the aftermath. Terry didn't want people to see him as weak. Not the fans, not even his children. He was always strong, always the Hulk. But behind closed doors, he was fighting so hard. She added that Hogan often insisted on hiding his pain, masking his suffering with charisma and strength. He wanted people to remember him standing tall, not lying in a hospital bed. In one of his final days, Sky recalled, he asked her to play Real American on her phone. As it played softly, he gave her one final nod, his face reflecting peace. That was his goodbye. No words, just that nod. That meant everything was okay. Hulk Hogan's passing shook not only the wrestling industry but the world of entertainment and pop culture at large. Vigils broke out across major cities: New York, Los Angeles, Miami, and Tampa, where fans held candles, wore red and yellow bandanas, and blasted his entrance music. WWE held a special Memorial Raw episode. Vince McMahon returned on air, visibly emotional, saying, "There will never be another like Hulk Hogan. He wasn't just our biggest star, he was our foundation. Documentaries, retrospectives, tribute matches, and charity events in Hogan's honor flooded the wrestling world. Wrestlers like John Cena, Roman Reigns, Charlotte Flair, and even The Rock credited Hogan as the reason they entered wrestling in the first place. Terry Bollea, the man behind Hulk Hogan, was posthumously awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom for his influence on American culture and charity work with children's hospitals and veterans programs. Sky Daily launched the Hogan Hero Foundation, aimed at providing physical therapy and support for retired athletes suffering from career-induced trauma. If you found this story moving, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss an update. Your support means everything.